I'm going to move on and talk about cornerback. And speaking of working, building from the outside in, but so this past season we had, Jalen Ramsey as our number one quarterback. I would argue, and I think I might get a little bit of pushback on that from some people on this show, but I would argue that Jalen Ramsey still had a borderline Pro Bowl season. I think,
What?
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. I and
You might be the only one, buddy.
and I knew I would get some pushback on that. But Jalen Ramsey, according to Pro Football Focus, was 16th out of
really?
16th out of over 200 cornerbacks.
All right.
So when I say I think he still had a borderline Pro Bowl season, I mean it. I saw him out there, and I saw him making some plays. There were moments where he got burned. Brian Thomas burned him a couple of times in week one. Those plays were few and far between. He was a great blitzer. He was good in coverage. Just because you didn't hear his name a lot doesn't mean he wasn't having an effect on the football game.
That's fair.
And I think that's something we need to keep in perspective with Jalen Ramsey moving forward. He's still that dude. He's still a number one cornerback. He's getting older. He's getting long in the tooth. He's probably on the back nine of his career, but he's still a very good cornerback. And we need to appreciate what we have with him. Outside of Jalen Ramsey, we cut Kendall Fuller. We have Kader Kohu, who finished 86th out of 223 cornerbacks. Kendall Fuller, incidentally, finished 75th out of 223 cornerbacks. It only goes downhill from there. We got Storm Duck, who finished in the 150s. So on this roster right now, we have Jalen Ramsey and we have a bunch of undrafted free agents and Cam Smith, who hasn't shown that he can really do much of anything in the NFL thus far. The reality of this situation for the Miami Dolphins is this, though. There's only so many needs you can address in one offseason. I argued last week the Dolphins should spend their first-round pick on offensive guard. I said I wouldn't be sad if they spent their second-round pick on offensive guard as well. I said that they should bring in an offensive guard in free agency. Taylor tonight argued for interior defensive line. Very good argument. We should probably bring in another edge rusher, Anthony.
Not in the first round, though.
No, not in the first round.
Okay.
But again,
Sorry,
these are all assets that we're allocating. This money and draft picks, and we can't just fix every single one of our team needs in one off season. I think cornerback is one of those needs that we have to kick the can down the road a little bit. What do I mean by kick the can down the road? Bring Kader Kohu back, obviously, to play the slot for us. Mm-hmm. Hope we can develop Storm Duck a little bit more. Ethan Bonner, who was the guy I was hoping to see a lot of this season, didn't really materialize. Maybe we can develop him a little bit more.
Podcast man crush, fellas.
Yes. But mostly opposite Jalen Ramsey, I think we bring in another Kendall Fuller type of guy. What do I mean by Kendall Fuller type of guy? I mean a late 20s cornerback who has played good ball in the past. And we're essentially bringing this guy in on a 1 or 2 year deal with the knowledge that we're getting the last good bit of football this guy has left in. That's kind of what I'm looking at for this offseason. Maybe draft a guy in the 4th or 5th round to develop alongside these younger cornerbacks. But I think what we need is just another starter who can just kind of stem the tide a little bit. And another Kendall Fuller type. And if I'm in Chris Greer's ear, if Chris Greer hires me to be his special consultant, again, Chris Greer, I'm available. I'll give you my number. Let's talk. Let's powwow.
Let's chat.
But yeah, if I'm in Chris Greer's office, this is what I'm saying to him. There's, a dozen guys who could fill Kendall Fuller's shoes for the Dolphins this upcoming season. Guys who are going to they're not going to embarrass you, but they're not going to jump off the page at you either. These are bringing one of these guys on a team-friendly deal. Yes, we've been using that term a lot, but this time I actually mean it. Bring one of these guys in on a team-friendly deal, have him start for you, and develop the younger guys underneath of him. I think that's what you do for the cornerback this offseason because the rest of our needs are such that we can't just revamp the cornerback room. And it's just not – we can look at that next offseason. This offseason, let's just try to tread water a little bit. So tell me what you guys think about it. Taylor, what do you think?
You bring up some very good points, especially when it comes to like this exercise. And part of why I think it's so fun is because we are basically just throwing out like spend a first round pick on a D lineman, but also spend a first round pick on a tight end. Like It's all just for like fun of like, hey, these are team needs. Here's where we kind of think vaguely like here's how the free agency looks, here's how the draft looks, here's what we would do with it, you know. And you're right, we can't allocate all those assets to all those positions of need, just quite literally impossible. So I think you bringing that up with the corners is a very smart thing to do because really that is the position that you kind of got to patch that hole, figure out who's going to start opposite of Ramsey, and go, well, we'll figure it out next season because we have to do so much right now. And hopefully the younger guys on the team can develop.
Yeah. That's – and, you know, Scotty says Will Johnson at 13. Oh. I get it, man. I'd love to see Will Johnson.
But it also depends on who's there, right? I mean, if it's between Will Johnson and, you know, that tight end that who shall not be named that everyone loves.
Yeah.
Or an offensive tackle that should be an offensive guard from a little school in Texas. I mean, I'm just saying, right? I mean,
or even Membu. Like I love Membu at 13. Again, you know, we've just named 3 guys who the Dolphins should draft at 13. We can't draft all 3 of them.
But if we trade Tyreek Hill, and we also trade all our picks to get another first round pick, and we move our picks back.
Yes.
Well, I'm advocating here is draft day 2. Let's get Kevin Costner in here.
The great thing about all this is it seems like there's a lot of options for us at 13.
There really is.
That's like tremendous.
Yeah, and what I really hope Chris Greer doesn't do, which he's done in the past, is force a pick. Because he's panicking on a position. Right. Take the best player that you have on your board. That we have a lot of positions of need. We have done going on 3 hours of a podcast over the last 2 weeks, going on to key positions of need. So pick the best player available and move on. Don't panic because there may be a run. Just take your best player on your board and don't overthink this, you know, because I feel like Chris Greer sits in that room and he's like, oh my God. I'll take Noah Igbenogany at the end of the first round when it's like, okay, brother, like, what are you doing?
Yeah. And that's, I mean, to be fair, that's kind of what I thought he was doing last year with Chop Robinson. And it turns out I was wrong. Turns out I was the fool on that one.
Well, you're not a fool. I think most people are like, huh?
Yeah. But, you know,
he was a rookie this year. Let's not crown him yet.
Yeah, but you know, he
best
looks
player available is the move. Like that is kind of the whole. Like you said it perfectly, Josh. This is a team that we did not make the playoffs this season. There's a lot of holes on the team. That's not to say that the Dolphins completely suck and there's no bright spots. There are a ton of bright spots on this team. But again, did not make the playoffs this past season, and that's for a myriad of reasons, including availability. And with a team that you have a lot of questions about its toughness, I mean, you just got to pick at some point, like, hey, yeah, you know what? Not necessarily exactly what we would ideally want, but this is the best guy on the board right now that will fit into our culture.
Absolutely.
Perfectly said.
Yeah. So, again, you know, looking at cornerback, you know, Will Johnson, certainly a possibility there if he drops. There's just so many needs on this team. I just don't know that we can, you know, guard to me. And
for sure.
I'm beating a dead horse here, guys.
No,
you know, I say this every week, but guard to me is the number one need. Guard to me is the need that the Dolphins need to prioritize this offseason. And if we address offensive guard in spite of, you know, to spite the cornerback room, look, so be it. Sacrifices have to be made. and you can't build up an entire roster in one off season. One thing that I did love about the way Chris Grier handled last off season was he was adept at shopping in the bargain bin. He brought in guys like Jordan Brooks and Kendall Fuller, guys of that ilk, on Anthony Walker on team friendly deals. The defensive line room, the defensive tackles that he brought in. He did a nice job of building up this roster, building up the depth on this roster, if only for one season. But he did a nice job of that. And I think he's going to have to do that again this offseason because we have so many top talent, top salaries. We have Tyreek Hill making a ton of money. We have Tua making a ton of money. We have Teron Armstead making a ton of money. Jalen Ramsey. We need to just kind of wait until these contracts get off the books a little bit before we can go spending big on free agency or whatever.